So even though this game has been out for a while now, I've noticed a lot of players are still unaware of some pretty basic and important things within this game. Some are going to be obvious, but some are not. Now this isn't an exhaustive list, it's just a few simple things that I thought could be handy for newer players. Number 10. Play the campaign. Now this isn't strictly necessary, but it's not only a great way to showcase the world of Warhammer 40,000 and the story of our boy Titus and his new friends, but it teaches you the basic mechanics of the game in general. It also teaches you one of the core mechanics like how to parry, which you'll be coming back to pretty frequently in the PvE operations mode. Plus it also means you'll avoid any spoilers, and it's a pretty fun campaign anyway. Number 9. Do the trials. Okay, this is a bit of a mixed one because the trials can be challenging, at least they were for me, but much like the campaign, it's also a great way to learn some of the basic abilities and gameplay mechanics. Each class has its own set of 3 trials, which also offer up a few rewards depending on how well you do. Armory data is great for upgrading and unlocking weapon tiers, and requisition is just the in-game currency, which is actually shared between cosmetics and weapon upgrades, so spend it wisely. Number 8. Pressing tab or the scoreboard button on console shows stats and inventory. Now I'm not entirely sure what the button is on console, but it's tab on PC. When you're in a mission, this button brings up a few key things like what your special ability is and explains a little about what it does. It also focuses and shows where your next objective location is. Super useful in PvE, especially if you get lost. Also, when you're on the battle barge, pressing tab on PC lets you fast travel between the launch bay and armoring hall. Not super important, but pretty handy to skip running back and forth between points. It also opens up the data repository in case you wanted to check what you have and haven't collected and in which mission. Number 7. Console players cannot read the chat messages that PC players send. So this one came as a surprise as I only found out by chance. In fact, I'm pretty sure consoles don't even have the chat option. So those console players you're trying to talk to via chat aren't actually ignoring you. They literally cannot see anything you're writing. I believe the voice chat still works across all platforms, but not the written text. Speaking of which, PSA to PlayStation gamers, your mic is on by default I believe, and we can not only hear you complaining and arguing with your family, we can hear you breathing. Number 6. The recent players list. This one took me a while to find out, and I'm not entirely sure what the controls are for our Xbox and PlayStation brethren, but there is a recent players list. On PC, whilst using the default control scheme on the battle barge, if you press Y, it will open up the squad details. From there, using either your mouse or direction controls, you can select invite and or recent players list. Selecting the recent players list will list all the players that you most recently played with. So if someone kicked you just as you're about to finish the boss on lethal, you can use this to report and or block them. Number 5. Melee weapon types. This one took me a bit to learn, but it makes a world of difference. There are 3 types of melee weapons in this game: fencing, balanced, block. Block gives you no perfect parry window. As of update 4.0, fencing and balanced weapons now have the same perfect parry window. The difference is that with fencing, the parry window starts from the first frame of the animation. This should basically mean that fencing is still the easiest of the 3 melee weapon types to parry with. Personally, I definitely still recommend just sticking with fencing because it's just much easier. I've used block and balance before, but it just doesn't feel as good as fencing. Whatever you decide to stick with though, just make sure you check your weapon type. Number 4. Armory data and requisition has a cap. Now this one got me, and when I found out I got pretty annoyed. Essentially each level of armory data, including green, purple and gold, all cap out at 20 pieces each. Requisition points cap out at 990. Anything that you earn after a mission that exceeds this cap does not count, so is effectively wasted. So if you're at or starting to approach these caps, make sure you spend it or you'll lose it. Number 3. Gun strikes do not provide invincibility. Now if you've reached here, you're probably already aware of the executions. When you execute an enemy, you are invincible for a period, so it can be a handy little mechanic to play around, especially when you're getting swarmed. It also gives you some armor back and then you can go on your merry way. Gun strikes are a similar mechanic which also restores armor, however they don't provide that invincibility frame, so if even the smallest Tyranids hit you, it will cancel the gun strike, leaving you open to death. So just be mindful of when you choose to gun strike and execute. Number 2. Guardian Relic usage and spawn locations. Before we go into Guardian Relics, I'll explain how being downed works in Space Marine 2. When you go down the first time, your teammates will be able to revive you once or twice depending on the difficulty you're playing. If you go down again, you receive what's called a mortal wound, which means the next time you get downed, you will die instantly. After a time it ticks down, you will still respawn at the last checkpoint as long as not everyone in your team is dead. Now, if you're holding a Guardian Relic, you essentially get an extra life. If you go down whilst holding one, you get the option to use them right away. My advice though is to only use them when the entire team is down, because if someone can revive you, it won't use up the Guardian Relic. They will also automatically revive you if you get downed with a mortal wound. Now, there are set locations where these spawn, but sometimes you'll get a gene seed spawn instead. Number 1. Gene seeds. A gene seed is an item that provides you with a decent amount of extra XP and is available in every operation, but I'm not sure if it's a 100% spawn rate. The extra XP boost isn't the biggest, maybe roughly 30%, but it's significant enough to be worth carefully choosing who picks it up. The thing to know about them though is that once you've picked them up, if you die, you lose it, regardless of if you've got a mortal wound or not. It doesn't drop for someone else to pick it up. It doesn't respawn somewhere magically, it's just in the ether, it's gone. What you should also know is that the only way to put a gene seed down after picking it up is by picking up a Guardian Relic, which takes up the same slot in your inventory. My best advice is that you choose very carefully who picks it up in your team, and if someone picks it up by accident, they need to find a Guardian Relic to replace it, and the person you do want to hold it should grab it instead. Whenever someone grabs them in my games, I will usually try to make sure they have full stims to keep them alive, even if it means I don't get any, because they are now the priority. Now, one thing to keep in mind though is that Guardian Relics can spawn in the final areas of missions. My theory, which has yet to be tested, is that if the relic spawns in the last area, to be safe, you could potentially drop the gene seed, pick up a relic, and before finishing the last section, grab the gene seed again without risking it and still complete the mission. Now, I should note that I haven't tried this yet, but I don't think it will despawn as long as you grab it before the mission ends. This should ensure that you don't risk going down and losing the XP boost and still give you enough time to grab it before the mission ends. Okay, bonus tip. Weapon perks can be reset without any penalty. Each weapon has their own list of perks that make them stronger, and without having any penalty for respecking means it's worth trying out different builds to see what you like. You can obviously always Google or YouTube some suggested ones, but it needs to work for you, so this is a great way to try out what you prefer most. Mind you, the class perks, which are different, don't necessarily have the same options, but you don't really need it. You just need to unlock them all, and you can switch between them freely. So those are my top tips. Hopefully it helps improve your gaming experience. If so, please feel free to leave a like and throw us a sub, and if not, leave a comment letting me know how I could do better. Again, this isn't an exhaustive list, it's just a few things that would have been super handy if I knew them when I first started.
The Codex Astartes does not support this action, but I am looking forward to it.
If you've managed to sit through this whole video, thank you so much for watching. I'm still looking to upload a brand new video once a fortnight, but be sure to let me know what else you'd like to see in the comments. Thanks again for watching. Hopefully, I'll catch you in the next one.